Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today we are going to be reacting to the Goodreads Choice Awards nominees. So, I've never actually done this as like its own video before. Previously, I've always done it within my reading the Goodreads nominees video. So, this is the first time I'm doing it, mostly because usually I get spoiled, but I was prepared this time. Actually, I wasn't. It was pure luck that I did not get spoiled for anything yet. A couple of weeks ago, I posted a video that featured my 20 predictions for the Goodreads Choice Awards in the fantasy category. Honestly, immediately after I posted that, I remembered about 2 or 3 books that I did mention in it, so I already know that, like, I'm pretty sure I'm fairly wrong. I do think I got some of them. Obviously, we'll see in a minute, so we'll see how well I do on that. The reason I'm doing this as a separate video, because as I said, I have previously in the past done reading the Goodreads nominees. I think in 2020 and 2021 I did the YA fantasy. I didn't do any in 2022, and then last year I did the adult fantasy. I will see how this goes, because if the nominees are real bad, I won't read them. Like, if I have zero interest in the majority of them, I'm not going to force myself to read books that I'm not really interested in. But if I'm interested in at least the majority of them, then I will do that video. And I feel like putting my reactions and all of that in this video will definitely like cut down, because obviously like when you're reading like 10 books for a video, like that can drag on quite a bit. It can be quite a long video, because that's a lot of reviews to give. So I kind of decided to just like, if I do this video separately, that'll cut down on a bit of time, and I can tell you what I presume is going to be in the top 10 and the first ones that I'm going to pick. I usually get spoiled because I go on like Instagram or Twitter and I see like an author or a booktuber or a bookstagrammer or whatever saying something about, oh my god, like, thanks for nominating me, or being like, oh my god, my favorite book has been nominated, and I'm like, no. And this morning, I don't know why, usually like Twitter is one of the first things that I check in the morning, but for some reason I checked my emails and I saw that Cassidy had posted that last night they did a reaction like live stream on her Patreon, and so I knew that they were out, and I was like, okay, I have to avoid Instagram, Goodreads, Twitter, and Discord, because I'm in quite a few bookish groups there. So I was like, okay, I have to avoid all of those this morning, so I've avoided them. So I'm not spoiled, so let's get into it, I guess. Well, I see the familiar. Okay, so I'm about to click into fantasy, guys. All right. Okay. Oh. Okay, one book that I have not heard of at all, just from my first 4 that I see. First is The Dead Cash Tales Assassins by P. Jelly Clark, and I did not put this on my reaction, but I actually cut a portion out at the start of that video where I said books that I thought could potentially, but I didn't personally put them in my top 20, and that was like literally the last book I talked about, but like the video is way too long, so I cut that section out, and I'm like, no, I should have kept it in. So yeah, so I have heard of that book, but I left it out in the end. So then Empire of the Damned by J. Kristoff, I did have this on my list, so I was right about that. Unfortunately, that does pose a problem for me because I haven't read the first book, and I don't want to read the first book. Sweet Sting of Salt by Rose Sutherland. I have not heard of this book whatsoever. I've never heard of this. So that's a shock for me. I kind of looked a bit more like horror-y just from the cover, so maybe it's kind of a genre blend. Then The Bright Sword by Lev Grossman. I did have this on mine, so that's 2. Woo! The Blackbird Oracle by Deborah Harkness. Lost Story by Meg Schaefer. Again, a book I've not heard of. This is very surprising to me. I've gone really bad with this. When Among Crows by Veronica Roth. I think that's a novella, which is kind of why I didn't pick it. I think that might actually be my own internal bias. Whoops. Then The Book of Doors by Gareth Brown. I have not heard of any of these. Oh my god, this is really bad. Like, literally out of all of these, I've heard of like 5 of them out of the first 8, and I haven't read any of them, and only 2 of them were on my list. Okay, moving on again. The Night Ends with Fire by KX Song. I have heard of this, but again, it was not on my list. Voyage of the Damned by Frances White. I have heard of this. I have the book. It's an Illumicrate book. I have it right here. I have not read it, but I did put it on my list, I think. Did I? I think I put it on my list. Then An Academy for Liars by Alexis Henderson. I thought this would be a horror, because that's how I heard it marketed, but obviously it's not. A Song to Drown Rivers, Anne Leung. I have not heard of like any of these books. Oh my god, this is so bad. Then, okay, now the next row is all books that I have predicted. Yes. So, Emily Wild's Map of the Other Lands by Heather Fawcett. I did predict that. A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher. I did predict that. The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackinson Bennett. I did predict that. And The Warm Hands of Ghosts by Catherine Arden. I did predict that. Okay, so I'm not completely hopeless. That was a bit better. Then on to our final one. Somewhere Beyond the Sea by TJ Klune. Again, I predicted that would be here. The Foxwife. Again, I haven't heard of this. In fairness, this kind of excites me because maybe I might find an author that I've never heard of before. That's exciting. Lee Bardugo, The Familiar. I predicted that, and I will still predict that's going to win. And then Five Broken Blades by Mike Corland. I actually predicted this might be in the fantasy romance category. I've seen a lot of people debating which category to fit it in. I think it was originally marketed as romantasy, but a lot of people then said, no, I would actually say it's more fantasy, but with a strong romance subplot. And then people in fantasy were like, no, the romance is too much. And it was a bit of a mess. So that's why that also wasn't included on my list. But yeah, so how well did I do? So the dates for this year, so the opening round is the 12th to the 24th. So this, because it's this part that is really difficult for me, because obviously I do think that there's a couple of books that are definitely going to get through. As I said, I'll show you my method of figuring that out. But already just from like gut instinct, like things like The Familiar, I think Emily Wild, all of those. I think probably also The Warm Hands of Ghosts. I think they'll all get in. But it's very difficult, like when you get kind of lower down the like number of ratings and like average rating, when you get like till there's going to be a good few that have roughly the same, there it's actually very difficult to try and figure it out. There's always surprises. Most of the time, yes, it's going to be the number, it's going to be the books that have the highest number, but there is always like 2 or 3 maybe surprises that kind of just squeeze in there because they have such a dedicated fan base. And so like though trying to figure out what to read in those, because you could very easily choose a wrong book and read a book that you don't actually have to read the top 10. And so then the final round, because that is the 26th to the 1st, which is not a lot of time to read a lot of chunky fantasy books. Of course, the winners aren't announced until December 5th, so it gives you a little bit longer, but like it is only like 10-ish days, which to read chunky fantasies is not a lot. So I do have to try and read a couple before that and just pray that I'm right. So yes, but I suppose I'm gonna just quickly like click through the fantasies and just gut reaction. I'm gonna tell you what's gonna win. Okay, so fiction, I don't recognize any of these names. Sally Rooney I do recognize. I'm going to guess she's gonna win. Done. Then historical fiction. Okay, I recognize a couple of these names. I haven't read any books from any of these people, but I do recognize, well, I have read from Sylvia Marina Garcia. I'm gonna guess Kristen Hanna's gonna win that one. Mystery and thriller. Ooh, okay, I follow actually quite a few people who like to read mystery and thrillers. I don't personally read a lot of them. Ooh, the one that personally I want to read the most out of here is We Solve Murders by Richard Osman. I want to read his books in general. Ooh, I actually don't know. Oh, it's probably going to be Frida McFadden, isn't it? I think people really love her. So I'm going to guess her. Then, favorite romance. Oh, there's a lot of very popular books and authors in here. I actually recognize most of these. I don't think I've read any of them. No, I haven't read any of them. That is unsurprising. But I'm going to gut reaction say Funny Story by Emily Henry. I do really want to read that book. Then, romantasy. Oh, okay. I'm gonna see it. Yeah, I see a couple of books that I put in mine. So I put A Dark and Drowning Tide in my predictions. So it did make it, but it made it in the romantasy. Feybound I also put in fantasy, but it's in romantasy. And The Spell Shop I also put in fantasy, but it's in romantasy. So I did actually guess 3 more, just the wrong category. Also House and Flame and Shadow. I'm obviously gonna win that. Sarah J. Maas. It's Sarah J. Maas. She's gonna win. Fantasy, just from gut reaction, I think Lee Bardugo's gonna win. Then sci-fi. I don't really know anything about any of these. I haven't really heard. Maybe Jeff Vandermeer. I know that he has a lot of people that love him, so I'll just guess his book. Favorite horror. I feel like I've heard really good things about a lot of these. Again, I'm like vaguely interested, but like I find them very intimidating. So I'm gonna guess maybe, maybe either, I'm gonna go with The Eyes Are the Best Part, but I could also see Bury Your Gaze, because I've heard really good things about that as well. Best debut. Well, I obviously don't really know about these. I'm also gonna go with The Eyes Are the Best Part for that. Favorite audiobook. That's a new category. Well, hold on a minute. This is fascinating to me. Interesting. Oh. Yeah, so there's a whole new category this year. Obviously I haven't listened to the audiobook, and I feel like people are going to just actually be voting for, you know, their favorite book, not for the best audiobook. Young adult, I'm going to guess Ruthless Vows by Rebecca Ross, because she won it last year. Then young adult fiction. Oh, Heartstopper is included in that, since they got rid of graphic novels. I'm going to guess that that's going to win. Non-fiction, I mean, how am I supposed to know what non-fiction is going to win? I'm not going to guess anything for the non-fiction. So anyway, that was fun. So we'll see if I'm right about any of those. I have a feeling probably not. Because like that was literally, I haven't even looked at the ratings or anything. That's just like pure reaction and what I've heard of. And like what I've heard of does not actually equal how many people have read a book. So yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna in case you want to know what I'm about to do, I'm going to go through, I'll look at the samples of all of them just so I can know what they're about. And then I'm going to average rating, number of ratings, and I'll write them both down for all 20 of the books. And then I will find the ones that are in the top 10 of both of those first. So usually there'll be maybe like 2 or 3 or 4 of those, depending, you know. And those ones I 100% confident will get in. And then after that, I'll start looking at the highest number of ratings, and those are the ones that I'll kind of lean towards reading first. But if there's some that have like a really super high average rating, I might put that in as one of my top 10 predictions, just like, because as I said, usually there's a couple that'll squeeze in there. So I'm gonna go do that, and I will be back later. I have returned, and so I went through all of them, just, you know, just having a general nosy, let's say. I'm gonna presume that they were just immediately showing me the American covers, but I recognize the UK editions of some of these. So A Song to Drown Rivers I recognized when I was looking through the different editions of covers, and same with the Book of Doors. I also recognize the UK cover instead of the American one. So I wasn't as clueless. I was like, oh no, I have actually seen this book somewhere. So I've gone through, I've marked the top 10 in each of these categories, and then so we had 7 overlapping, which is way more than last year. Last year I think we only had 4 that overlapped, or maybe 3. It was a really small number, which made it a lot harder. Whereas this year it's like, okay, I'm pretty confident already in a lot of the books that are going to make it to this. And then also not included in those 7, I have 2 more that I'm pretty confident are getting in. Though I will say there's like one of these that like for some reason, like gut feeling, I don't think will get in, but I'm gonna still put it on my prediction for top 10 just because. But as I said, I have 2 that are in the top 10 number of ratings but aren't in the highest average rating, and then I have 1 that is 11th in the number of ratings but is, I believe, the highest average rating. So I think we will talk about that one first. So the first one that I'm predicting is The Empire of the Damned by J. Kristoff. So as I said, this is actually 11th, so it just missed out on that top 10 of number of ratings. It has 15,941, whereas the one that is just one higher than it is 16,397. So it's like not that big of a difference, though I will say there's a lot more time between the release of those 2 books. The 16,000 is actually a lot more recent, but also it is a sequel. And as I said, it has a 4.57 average rating compared to everyone else, who is a lot lower than that. I think, what's the next highest? The next highest is a 4.31. So it is a very high average rating. And as I said, it is 11th, so I'm relatively confident that it could get in. And then another one that does not have any overlap between number and average, but it is the highest number of ratings by a long shot, and that is The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. So it is number 1 on the number of ratings. The second highest is 24,000 ratings behind it. It's a 3.8, so it's one of the lowest actually, but it doesn't matter when you have number of ratings that high. I would be extremely surprised if it didn't get in. You kind of just have to think of it. So this book here has 2 ratings. It has a 5-star and a 4-star. Its average rating is a 4.5. Oh my god, it must be such a good book. Whereas this other book over here has a like way lower average rating, but it has 10 reviewers, and you know, 2 of them gave it a 5-star, 2 of them gave it a 4, 2 of them gave it a 3, 2 of them gave it a 2, 2 of them gave it a 1. The average rating is a 3, but still more people gave that book a 5 than gave this book over here a 5. So when you have that many ratings on the next highest, I don't really think it matters in the grand scheme. So I'm pretty confident that The Familiar is going to get through, and I'm still pretty confident that The Familiar might win. And then the other highest number of ratings that I squeezed in, this one I'm not so sure about, because again, like it's not nearly, it's very much sitting around the number that a lot of the others are at, is 5 Broken Blades. So it is within the top 10 number of ratings. It has 21,312, and it has an average rating of 3.83. But I can definitely see this not making it, because even like, for example, The Lost Story, that has 20,258 and has a 3.85. So very similar number and average ratings. So I could see either of them kind of getting in. So I'm gonna just gut feel and go with 5 Broken Blades. Plus that's the one that I've heard like maybe a little more hype for. So I'm gonna guess that one, but it would not surprise me if it didn't make it. And then let's get on to the 7 that are overlapping. So I'm gonna just go in the order. I'm not going to do them in like any particular order, like what order I think they're gonna come in or anything like that. We're not doing that because that would take way too much time. I just wrote them down in a random order that they showed up when I clicked into Goodreads on my phone. So that's the order that they're getting read in. So A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher. It is 10th in number of ratings, 4th in the number of ratings. So also, plus that book only came out, I think maybe like 2 months ago or something. So like for such a short amount of time, especially since some of these books have been out like almost all of the year, I'm pretty confident in it. Somewhere Beyond the Sea, I mean, this is even more impressive because again, this isn't out that long. This is 42,808 ratings and a 4.3 average. So pretty confident in that as well. Like it is the 4th highest number of ratings. So pretty confident in that, and I'm pretty confident it'll probably be pretty high at the end. Then we have The Blackbird Oracle by Deborah Harkness. So this has 20,408 and a 4.13. I don't know, a gut feeling, I just don't think that it's going to get in because it is a 5th book in a series. But as I said, it is top 10 in both of them. So I don't know. As I said, just gut feeling, I don't think it's going to. So I'm probably not going to read that first. I will probably wait until the top 10 are announced before I read that. Well, I'm not going to read that because it's like the 5th book in a series, but I suppose I'll have to read the first book. I don't know. So then we have Emily Wilde's Map of the Other Lands. So we have 52,000. This is 2nd place for the number of ratings, and it is 2nd place also for the average rating. So I can actually see this potentially giving Leigh Bardugo a run for her money. But it is a sequel, and I feel like sequels can always be a bit of a hit or miss. We have The Warm Hands of Ghosts by Catherine Arden. This is 18,461 ratings, 4.01. Then The Book of Doors, 36,024, 4.04 average rating. And then lastly, The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett, 23,381 and a 4.31 average, which I will say I'm actually relatively excited for most of these books. Like A Sorceress Comes to Call, I did want to read that. I want to make my way through T. Kingfisher's backlist anyway. 5 Broken Blades I'm not as interested in, just because I've kind of given up on romantasy and I saw that marketed as it as a lot, but I'm gonna give it a go anyway. Then Somewhere Beyond the Sea, I liked the original book when I read it when it came out, but to me it kind of just seems like an unnecessary sequel. So like I'm not gonna be mad that I'm reading it, but I probably wasn't gonna really read it if I hadn't been forced. But like I'm not mad about it. Empire of the Damned, that will be a problem. I guess I'm going to read the first book in the series if I do have to read that. I did not like the Nevernight series, so I don't really want to read any more books from J. Kristoff. But oh well. And then The Blackbird Oracle, again, another one that I would not want to read because it is the 5th book in a series. But again, I might read the first book. as a bit of a substitution, which I don't think is really a fair comparison because, you know, people improve over time, and, you know, there's a lot of, in a first book, there's a lot of world building, and I'm, you know, but whatever. It's the best I can do. Emily Wilde, I have actually already read that. I gave it a 4-star. The Workman Has a Ghost by Catherine Arden, I have already read that. I gave it a 4-star. I don't think the video is up yet though. But I give it a 4-star. And then The Book of Doors, again, I only remember seeing, I think I saw it on a Waterstones table, and I was like, oh, it didn't interest me just looking at it, but I haven't really heard anything about it. As I said, all I did was see the cover on a table, so I guess I'm relatively intrigued. The Familiar I've already read. I gave that a 3-star. And The Tainted Cup, I have really want to read this all year, and I kind of had a feeling that it would make it into this, so I didn't see the point of reading it. I wanted to leave some stuff for me to read. First books that I'm probably going to read for that video are probably going to be Somewhere Beyond the Sea, A Sorceress Comes to Call, and The Tainted Cup, just because, as I said, I do think that those I'm like most confident in, and also the ones I want to read the most. So at least if I read them and they don't end up making the top 10, at least I'll be like, okay, at least I didn't like waste my time on a book that I had no interest in anyway. So yes, so thank you guys so much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye.